Welcome one, welcome all to Volume Jason Witten of the NFC East Mixtape, the greatest podcast that SB Nation puts out anywhere. You can actually access this a lot of places, which is what makes it super unique. You can listen to it on any of the NFC Beast podcast networks here at SB Nation. It's Blogging the Boys for Dallas Cowboys coverage, Bleeding Green Nation for Philadelphia Eagles coverage, Hogs Haven for Washington Commanders, or Big Blue View for New York Giants coverage. You can watch it on the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel or the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. And if you do, you will see the dueling colors that Brandon Lee Gowton of BGN and I, RJ Ochoa, are wearing today. We are recording this on Tuesday afternoon, a few days before Game 3 of the World Series, Brandon. First one in front of what is supposed to be the most raucous crowd ever assembled in the history of professional sports. Philadelphia, super tough. That's why they get all mad whenever they lose games. Blah, blah, blah. What up?
Yeah, I mean, you said it well. So I'm looking forward to that game tonight. Looking forward to the Phillies taking the big 2-1 lead en route going winning in Game 5. 4-1 series win, like I said. I have an NFC East Mixtape review, RJ. Do you want me to read it?
I do want you to read it.
It's not very nice, though.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Leave a rating, write a review. Do the cross rating, do the cross review, all this stuff. This is on the BGN side of things, I imagine.
Yeah, this is the Bleeding Green Nation ratings and reviews. 5 stars. You can write whatever you want, obviously within reason. Nothing, terrible. Nothing that you wouldn't be proud of, maybe showing your parents or whatever. But NFC East Mixtape, 3 stars. See, bad call. Should be 5 stars. This is from T. Schmooze. I love BLG. He has great takes and opinions that aren't over the top, quote unquote, homerish. But RJ Ochoa ruins this show. The dude is your typical Cowboys fan. He mocks any contradictory takes, and he has the typical sense of entitlement that most Cowboys fans have. The cocky confidence from a fan base that hasn't seen a championship in almost 3 decades is astounding. Solid content, decent debates at times, but RJ just becomes childish and insufferable. So many Eagles fans do like you, RJ, but this one does not.
I would argue that if anyone has been entitled and arrogant this season, it is just kind of any Philadelphian. Is that right? Is that the term? Philadelphia, right? Philite?
Yeah.
Or would it be Philly? What is a person from Philadelphia? Yeah, I had it right the first time.
Yeah,
I will say I'm doing this as a courtesy for our listeners and viewers. You're doing that thing where you have too many tabs open and your screen is like cutting in and out. So you might want to close a few of them. That's okay. I have a few reviews to get to. I'm a little bit behind. I have something to do.
For you real quick. What's someone from Dallas called? And what's someone from Houston called? And what's someone from San Antonio called? Since you're a sports fan of teams in all those cities.
Dallas people tend to go by Dallas, like Dallasites, or like
what?
Dallies.
That's terrible.
Dallies is like a new age way of looking at it. Houston is really lame. It's really normal, like Houstonian, like Philadelphian. San Antonioan, like that's the most common one, obviously.
That one makes okay.
Yeah. So I have several reviews to get to, and then I have actually a question about Philadelphia, and we have a lot to get to, so we have to kind of hurry up. We have to keep the dilly-dallying to minimum here. So these are all from the Blogging the Boys side of things. This one comes to us from Jake Hubbs. So it is a 5-star rating. It's titled NFC East Mixtape is great. I don't remember. I'm just reading this verbatim. I don't remember the specifics, but one time RJ said he would give people baked potatoes. Did I say that? This made me laugh, and for some reason, I think about it a lot. Love the content, but I hope Cowboys aren't the only Texas team to lose this week. Go Birds, go Dodgers. I'm from LA. Leave me alone. It's a little bit older of a review, so obviously that didn't work out. Next up, this comes to us from Joe's Lunch. 5-star rating titled NFC East Mixtape is still great. Here we go. Hey, RJ, I remember I complained about the Santa batteries and, VHS tapes. Said, hey, RJ, I had a joke lined up about Santa and a battery-powered VHS player, but I guess we're not doing that stuff anymore. So how about this? Last time the Cowboys made the NFC Championship, Washington had competent ownership. Hey, RJ, the Cowboys haven't been relevant in the playoffs since The Simpsons was good. Are you a Simpsons fan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you enjoy... I think there's so many underrated parts of football season, like the Simpsons commercials on a Sunday afternoon on the Fox broadcast just kind of makes you, feel like this time of year.
Or sometimes if you leave a Fox game on, maybe in the late window, I guess, and the Simpsons start to be on and you don't change the channel yet to Sunday Night Football.
Gone Tilt offers a 5-star rating titled NFC East Mixtape. Lots of people getting it right, by the way. We haven't had an NFC Mixtape fiasco. Shout out to Mr. Gowton, of course. RJ does a fantastic job on the NFC East. Appreciate how he pretends he isn't a massive Eagles fan. His constant hot takes on Twitter about Micah Parsons being held get old, though. Go Birds. So, whatever. Micah Parsons getting held all the time. Finally, this one
Micah Parsons who's going to be at the Phillies game tonight, by the way, as a big Phillies fan.
He's not a I don't know what you call like Harrisburgian, a Harrisburger. Anyway, David Griffith 01. The title is actually cut off, but I think it says who should the Eagles draft with their like top pick, maybe the Saints.
I saw that. Yeah.
5-star rating. NFC East Mixtape. After every Sunday, I find myself instantly wondering how RJ and Brandon are going to react on the NFC East Mixtape. I have a favor to ask of RJ. Can you please shame your co-host for how long he takes to see, react, read out loud 5-star reviews on BGN? Tis, Brandon. I'm betting my chances are better to get an answer if RJ sees it. So which player should the Eagles fans start paying attention to for our top 10 picks coming from the Saints? You know what, David Griffith? I will say check bleedinggreennation.com because they do a great job of tracking all that information for you.
All right. Speaking of bleedinggreennation.com.
Whoa, I have one last thing. This is the last.
Oh, no.
It's a question
into the episode.
It's a question about Philadelphia. I don't know if you saw this. The Astros apparently tried to order catering. Did you see this?
Yes.
And you're a big Philly person. You're 6'5", but so you're all about Philly.
How tall are you again?
I'm 5'9", so I'm not bragging about being super tall, but you're 6'5", like it's well documented. Anyway, Angelo's Pizzeria in South Philly. I don't know this. So I'm asking, like, how good is the pie from Angelo's Pizzeria?
Oh, it's very good. It's honestly my favorite in Philadelphia. Honestly, might be my favorite ever. You get the upside down from there. Like that's the pie to get. They have different kinds, but that's like the definitive top elite tier. They're all very good, but that is the best of the best. People like their cheesesteak there too. Some people will say like they have the best cheesesteak in Philly. It's very good. I've had it. And I love Angelo's. I'm not trying to crap on them, but I think Woodrow's still has the best cheesesteak. But their pizza is my favorite pizza in Philly.
I saw somebody tweet at you about the Woodrow's thing, and you were like, "Yeah, it's underrated or whatever." Right? Okay.
Well, I mean, it's just funny because people like want to always be like, "Oh, Jim's or Pat's or whatever." No, it's Woodrow's. Woodrow's is the best. Maybe
just this isn't a knock on Philadelphia, but maybe come up with a name that isn't like a person, like Jim's Pets. Let's come up with something a little bit different. You know what I mean? Like Angelo's. Like, hey,
Woodrow's is a good one. That's
is Angelo's. Thing. Is that the Angelo that Doug Peterson was pissed off towards?
No, that's Angelo Cataldi.
Okay,
who's retiring, by the way.
Wow, well, I don't know a lot about the city of Philadelphia except for they're going down in the World Series. But okay, let's move along. What do you want to get to? We're going to move quickly, so apologies to people who listen on 1.5 speed. We are among you. But it is what it is.
I mean, it's kind of funny. Like the Eagles have reached a point at this stage in the season where they're so good that they're also like not interesting. Like it's not like because they entered the game against the Steelers as 11.5 point favorites. I think it went up to by kickoff, and they took care of business. Like there wasn't a lot of like drama associated with this. It was okay. It was a little close early on when it looked like I almost said Phillies. The Eagles were going to hold the Steelers to a field goal. Brandon Graham commits a penalty. They go. By the way, what is Mike Tomlin doing? Kicking a field goal at the 2-yard line as 11.5 point underdogs? Like really weird decision from him. But whatever. They actually call a nice play there. Wide receiver pass trick play by Chase Claypool, who's now a member of the Chicago Bears, and they tie the game there. But from there, the Eagles just like raced out ahead. Jalen Hurts looked great. It was great to see him looking better, moving the ball through the air, really airing it out because the past 3 weeks he had fewer than 200 yards on average in each game. A.J. Brown, who you apologized for that take.
Yeah, like let it go, Eagles fans.
But it was like a weird reasoning. You apologized for that. Like, didn't you apologize that because the Saints lost to the Bengals? Like, it didn't make sense why you apologized for it. Well, like at the time.
I came around. It was really early in the season too. It was after I think the Vikings Monday night game.
It wasn't week 1 when he had 155 yards.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. I think it was after. Was it week 2 that they were on Monday Night Football, the doubleheader or whatever? So that's what I'm saying. Like, I have already apologized. Like, okay, we all say bad things, but like, let's move on. It was a bad take. I apologized, and I thought that we could all experience some level of growth. Apparently, that's not the thing.
I mean, I was getting like hate for saying that Jalen Hurts threw some passes early in that game.
Oh, you hated him, PLG. Wow, how do you like
underthrown? And my favorite thing is. And my favorite, I mean, least favorite is like when people just like he underthrew some passes early in the game, like objectively he did. And people were like, well, this aged poorly. No, it didn't. It not age poorly. He underthrew passes early, and then he threw better ones later. It wasn't like I was like lying, and it wasn't like I said he's only going to underthrow passes from now on the rest of his career. That's not what I said. Anyway, Jalen Hurts had a great game. It was really nice to see. Kind of puts him back in the MVP conversation because he kind of, not that he like left it, but
well, and Josh Allen didn't like shine on Sunday Night Football.
Right? Yes, he strengthened his case because he had 4 passing touchdowns. Could have had more. AJ Brown almost had a 5th, but kind of caught from behind barely by Minkah Fitzpatrick. So, I get why people are getting on you about AJ Brown because not only like was it clearly a good trade, it's like an amazing trade. Like
but like all of them are amazing except for Devontae Adams. Like I'm not trying to mitigate or like poo-poo the AJ Brown trade, but like the Tyreek Hill trade's the best one. No offense to AJ Brown. Like
I mean, from a maybe talent standpoint, but like when
he's unlocked Jalen Waddle more than, and like it's circumstantial. Like it's not apples to apples. Like you can't say like the things are the exact same. Although you thought that the Dolphins were like apparently the Eagles of the AFC.
They're pretty good.
Well, but still, like I would say that was the most successful wide receiver trade. But AJ Brown is a very, very, very close second.
He's also like 24, 25 years old. Like this is like Tyreek Hill is in his prime already. AJ Brown has not necessarily even hit his prime yet in terms of, at least age. So like that's crazy to think about. But yeah, the Eagles are obviously a very good team offensively, and the defense forced multiple turnovers and made some big plays as well. Robert Quinn didn't do a ton in his first game, but whatever. He came to Philly on short notice. Short week too, with the Bears having played in the Patriots or in the Patriots Stadium earlier in the week. So not a ton to say other than like very like complete game. We were looking for a complete game from the Eagles, and they turned one in. They covered the spread. Not much more you can ask for.
Just what you're supposed to do against crappy teams. Win.
Yep.
It's not always like super flashy. It is what it is. I want to give another special shout out to the mixologist who tagged me in the video that the Eagles social team created that was all about, did you know that the Eagles and Steelers were one team once upon a time? So I saw all of the tags on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you all very much. Yeah, this was weird. I think it's funny. There was like some weird dots or weird like not common denominators, but like you mentioned Robert Quinn, who the Eagles acquired from the Bears leading up to this game. The Bears, who the Cowboys played. The Eagles beat the Steelers with Chase Claypool in his final game as a Steeler before they traded him to the Bears, the team who the Cowboys just lost to. Just beat the team that lost to the Cowboys. Roquan Smith played his last game as a Bear against the Cowboys before being traded to the Ravens, the obviously rival of the Steelers. So some weird kind of funky stuff happening there. Sometimes things just kind of clunk together like that. The Eagles are 14-point favorites against the Houston Texans on Thursday night in Houston. I don't know. And that, by the way, that is according to our friends at DraftKings, who sponsors our show over at the SB Nation NFL show, where Brandon missed his lock of the week. I was the only one to get it right. So everyone should listen to me if you want to make money. You locked up the Raiders over the Saints. You thought, this Saints pick is going to be a little bit higher, but no, not after all.
I mean, I don't think anyone was thinking the Raiders were going to get shut out against the Saints.
Well, it was fluky to trust them. I told you that on the show. But hey, you
get shut out. Your
lock
record
come on. So my last question on this, and then you can kind of spin forward. What is the average Philly fan doing? Like, I know we kind of already talked about baseball, but with the World Series getting postponed today, every Philly, like Philadelphia, was going to they were in Nirvana this week with like games 3, 4, and 5, Thursday Night Football, then 5 and 6 if necessary. So like, what is the plan? Obviously, the plan for you is keep tabs as much as you can on the World Series, but like the average person, what do you think they're doing in your estimation?
Well, for me, I'll answer for me first. I have the big monitor where I usually watch the games, and I have a smaller one off to the side for this kind of stuff. So I will put the Phillies game on the smaller monitor and have it on there with the volume off. I think most people will be like Philadelphia as a whole, because you're asking, those are two different things. If you're asking about like the general pulse of Philadelphia, I think they obviously care more about a World Series game, which could potentially be like a very like in theory, it could be the closeout game for the Phillies, like that possibility exists.
Or it could be the last game for the Phillies.
Well, sure,
it could be the closeout one way or the other.
Right.
So this was my take. You got mad about my Robert Quinn take. How the Eagles made it was a joke.
Mad.
But, for anyone who's unaware, the Eagles made beating the Bears easier for the Cowboys. So what if the NFC East is won
different in that game?
Anyway, so. I mean, like you yourself have made mention of the crowd in Philadelphia for the Phillies. Like the postponement and the fact that the Eagles are playing on Thursday night impacts things. Like it does. Like even if it's 1%, And I mean, I'm with you. I think that every person would like if they could win one or the other, a World Series or a Thursday night game in Houston. The choice is obvious.
Against
But I
this
do
opponent
think
too.
my personal read on things. You can tell me if I'm wrong. The average Philly sports fan who is Eagles, Phillies, Sixers. If there was like a pie of their associated fandom, I would say like 70% belongs to the Eagles. Like it is a significant majority. So the Phillies are a much like smaller priority in their life.
I mean, I think Eagles fans, like Eagles fans who also like the Phillies, are certainly going to be watching the Eagles game. But I think the general Philadelphia sports fan is going to care more about the World Series, especially against this opponent. It's one thing if this is like a big Eagles Cowboys matchup on Thursday, like that's a tougher call. Right. It's an AFC opponent, and like the Texans are bad and have no juice, and like you just said, the Eagles are 14
red helmets
favorites.
though. Red helmets.
That is interesting. Supporting the Texans, supporting the Phillies, apparently. But I think people are going to be very okay checking in on the Eagles score while watching the Phillies game, mostly.
It was just an interesting wrinkle that came about because of the World Series postponement. Okay, you wanted to go to the Giants next because we both overlooked the Giants last week.
Well,
we both did.
That's not why.
We both overlooked them.
That's not the reasoning. That's not the reasoning.
So stupid. We go in divisional order. We made a mistake the last few weeks.
The reasoning is we talked about the Cowboys in the Giants spot. So what
does it make sense to undo? But we both overlooked the Giants
in the Cowboys spot.
Giants, we've already apologized. The Dallas Cowboys beat the Chicago Bears 49-29. The offense.
We're not talking about the Cowboys here. We're talking about the Giants here. It's a one for one. It's a one for one. How do you not understand this?
We have limited time. The Cowboys won 49-29.
I'm not going to say anything.
Well, then you acknowledge that Dak Prescott's the best quarterback in the division.
I'm not going to say anything because you don't even believe that right now. Is Dak Prescott in the MVP conversation?
I don't know. You can't
He's
even
the best quarterback in the division right now.
You can't evaluate it. I mean, it's like you can't evaluate it fairly for Dak. Like you can't evaluate anything fairly. You can't be like he's having an amazing season.
Availability is part of the equation here.
No,
that's not bad luck because Carson Wentz got crushed for being injury prone and everything. So now
that's because people were by the way,
and everyone needs to laud Dak for being how like durable he was, and he gets hurt, and now we can't criticize him for that. He's just untouchable.
Okay, so these are different discussions, like whether or not we can criticize him for being injury prone and how we can evaluate his success on the field. Those are two different discussions. But you're right; it's fair to say like, is he injury prone now?
Against him is the point. It's not like
but
you can't
as far
as
he's played 2 full games this season. Obviously, the first game against the Bucs was terrible. The game against the Lions was the first one back, ramping up, et cetera, knocking the rust off. It was incredible. I said, and I don't know if you remember this game. This was the best Dak played in my mind since Atlanta last year when the Cowboys kind of just had their way with the Falcons. They just blanked them totally, completely. He had some nice moments later down the stretch. He played well on Thanksgiving. The Cowboys lost that game. They played well on Sunday Night Football against Washington when the then football team fought each other on the benches. Remember the bench stuff? That was so much fun.
You love the bench stuff.
And then they all played well in Philadelphia. Oh, it was a Super Bowl, whatever. I mean, this was the most sound football he had played in my mind since November 14th of last year. And that was a really encouraging thing to see. I can't find myself with enough energy to argue Zeke Elliott versus Tony Pollard. Like, it's not a real thing in my mind. I know what Jerry Jones said. I think if you're a football fan, not even a Cowboys fan, but if you're a football fan who takes Jerry Jones seriously, you're kind of telling on yourself. Jerry's going to say what he wants. But the coaching staff has shown that they're certainly going to incorporate Tony Pollard, which is a promising thing moving forward.
It's not a real thing in your mind because like it's not going to happen and you're resigned to it not changing, or because you think it should be how it is.
It's because I don't take like anything that Jerry says about the football of the team seriously. Like, you know,
you still think Pollard should be the guy, right?
If
it was up to you.
Yeah, I mean, but like define the guy. Like I don't think either of them
be playing more than he is when Zeke is healthy.
Yes, but I don't think like people turn the discussion into that's why like this is a sensitive topic. Like I'm not saying Pollard, like people say he should be the bell cow. I'm not saying he should touch the ball 30 times a game, but 15 is not
about
enough.
That. It's not about saying Zeke shouldn't get any carries, but
he should be the focus of your backfield. That is definitely my take. And he's not. But I mean they are incorporating him, using him more. They're also keeping him fresh. I mean, if you want to, believe, like, lend yourself to that argument, they're keeping Zeke fresh. I mean, like, the recipe that they are following is working. And so it's difficult to argue with those results. I'm not a results-oriented person in this sense. but he was remarkable. I mean, at present time, the Cowboys are on their bye, obviously. Their 4 longest plays this season, shout out to our friend Justice Mosqueda, help me look this up, all belong to Tony Pollard. Like, like they're literally all of them are Tony Pollard. He is a highlight waiting to happen. And he gets like lumped into this like, oh, well, he's the flashy runner and Zeke's the physical one. Like, that's not it at all. Like, Tony Pollard is just as, maybe not just as physical of a runner, but he's totally physical as well. He can fight his way through traffic. He does that all the time. He is the most dangerous player on their offense. There's no doubt about it.
Bears are really bad. Not to take credit away from the Cowboys. I'm just saying, like, I never thought the Bears were going to win that game because I'm obviously not a Justin Fields guy.
You took Dallas to cover, right? When it was like 9.5, 10, whatever.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
that worked
it
out.
was not even a question in my mind. I should have made that my lock because it was not a question to me. Especially Bears were coming off a short week too, and as you noted, kind of unfair to them. Not that it would
short week on the road before traveling, really unfair.
Yeah, so it was not. They weren't going to win this game. It just wasn't going to happen. And sure enough, they didn't. Justin Fields certainly didn't help the Bears' cause by not touching down Michael Parsons and instead jumping over him, which is just
so sad. I mean,
that's so, like. I don't want to hear like, oh, whatever, who cares? No, that's a big deal. And he's not a rookie anymore. You can't even use like, oh, whatever. You just still used to the college rules. You're not a rookie, dude. Like, he should know better.
To your point, though, like we're not the biggest Daniel Jones fans, but remember when he fell on Thursday Night Football? That was in Philly, right?
Yep.
That game. Like he got destroyed for that, right? Yeah. Like, it was, I mean, and it was funny, whatever, but like, this is worse than that. You know what I'm saying? Like
he wasn't trying to fall.
I know, but like the fall was just like he's running really fast, whatever. Like
he's almost too skilled.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? But like this is literally like a process decision. So yeah, I don't want to like that. Oh, but watch out, he's got Chase Claypool now. Oh man, Justin Fields has been unlocked. I will say, for an Eagles fan who did not watch this game, because that happens when the Cowboys and Eagles are playing simultaneously, the scoreboard reads 49-29, and some of Justin Fields' stat lines are a little bit generous. I was talking to you in Stats about this on Slack. Not to be the like officials like are out for the Cowboys guy, and I know the review bagged on me already for this, but 13 of Chicago's 29 points were directly influenced by ticky-tack calls. Trayvon Diggs had an interception after Chauncey Golston was called for roughing the passer. We all know how ticky-tack that has been this season. And Khalil Herbert clearly fumbled. And then, according to officials, with no evidence to support this, regained possession before not fumbling again. And the Bears scored on both of those drives that were kept alive by those penalties. So I think that that's important in evaluating what Dallas gave up or what Justin Fields did or whatever. It was a sound, butt whipping. This was the perfect kind of game to go into the bye, which is where the Cowboys are at now.
One similarity between the Eagles and Cowboys, and I have a question for you too, is the Eagles and Cowboys both did not make a deal on trade deadline day. Each made one last week when they both acquired defensive lineman Jonathan Hankins for the Raiders, and then Robert Quinn for the Eagles. As I just said, the Cowboys did not make a deadline deal, which flies in the face of one RJ Ochoa, who tweeted, "My personal opinion is that the Dallas Cowboys should make a move (parentheses trade signing, etc.) that they believe will help them win the Super Bowl this season. That is how I would approach things if it were my team, but the Cowboys let you down, RJ."
So there are people who don't identify that those kinds of tweets are sarcasm. That happens, by the way. Also on the subject of Twitter, just so everyone knows, Brandon said he's going to pay the money to keep his blue check. So everybody watch out.
Anyway. I did not say that. That's not true.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. Like we talked about a lot of BTB. Like Jonathan Hankins trade. I wouldn't say it was like super aggressive, but I loved it. It addressed a need. Low cost. High reward, I guess. For what it's worth, it felt like what went up was going to come down. The Cowboys brought in a defensive tackle right before we started recording this. That's why I was late. They waived Tristan Hill, their second-round draft pick in 2019. He was their second-round pick, but their first pick because they had traded their first-rounder for Amari Cooper. So there's only 3 players left from the 2019 class for Dallas, all in contractors, obviously. One of them is Tony Pollard. I think they're well equipped, and there was the report, oh man, they really tried. They were close with the Houston Texans to bring in Brandon Cooks. I don't know how much I put into that. I believe they picked up the phone or whatever. But Cooks' contract was always going to make it difficult to deal him.
So like
for
$18 million guaranteed next year.
It was just impossible. And so should the Cowboys have given up a second-round pick for Chase Claypool? No. No. Is it still frustrating that, he went for a second and that Amari went for a fifth? Yes. But
wow. Way to put it into context. I know he is on a rookie deal, but geez.
Right. There's context, but it's just, it will never not. It will never not be annoying.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense.
I like it would have been cool if they had pulled something off. Don't get me wrong, but like I really am fine. Like they have, in my mind, with me specifically, earned some benefit of the doubt with how the things they have done. They have
Wow.
justified. Well, I'm not saying all of it, but they have justified some of their decisions and their beliefs, and there's proof of concept. That's not to say they're infallible and they should be trusted implicitly, but they have earned some benefit of the doubt. James Washington's coming back, and generally the response is like, "Oh, James Washington, whatever." But I mean, I felt that way about Dante Fowler. I mean, like, and that doesn't suggest like this isn't a results oriented thing, but I trust them. I'm willing to trust them, willing to see what they've got going. They're 6-2. They're well positioned. They have a 96% chance of making the playoffs. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt at this point.
Deadline was a seller's market too. Clearly, it wasn't an opportunity to buy low anywhere really. Like everyone who traded away a player, I think generally won or at least got like very good returns in return. No one was to be had for the cheap. So I think that's something important to consider for the teams such as the Eagles and Cowboys here, who did not make deadline moves on deadline day. Neither did the Giants as well, and we'll get to them. Commanders did, so we'll also touch on that.
The Giants, like the Cowboys and Eagles, made a trade last week, but they sent a player away. Obviously, I guess it's probably a good time to get to them. Actually, let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsors. Welcome back, Brandon. While we were recording, you went and got a New York Giants jersey out of your closet. Can you tell everybody what player it is?
That didn't happen.
You're wearing a Phillies jersey. I believe you got it for your birthday. Is that a general jersey or is it a player? Because I'm looking at the front.
It's a player.
Which one?
Guess a number. That's not a good game.
I think it's Bryce Harper.
It's 29.
Okay.
It's just 29. That's all it says on the back.
Really? Are you?
Yeah.
I think you need to prove it to us now at this point. Like
I don't want to turn it around. It's too much.
I think there's a bigger story here. It probably says 6'5".
I mean, if I turn around, then like no.
6'5".
Not
anyway,
what's happening.
Okay. The New York Giants, we haven't recorded since they traded away Kadarius Toney to the Kansas City Chiefs. Just never worked. There's talent there, but he's kind of like in the Justin Fields box of like getting a little bit too much hype without the on-field results. But we'll see. I mean, if it's going to work anywhere for him, it's going to be in Kansas City. But the Giants fell to the Seahawks. They were actually, we talked about our locks of the week. Stats' lock. He took the Giants. What was his strategy? He said he closed his eyes and picked a team, right? And he picked the Giants. So
yeah, and I said it was a bad pick. I said I want to pick the Seahawks twice in a row, but I can't per my rule that I made.
And I said on the mixtape last week that I was thinking about taking the Giants, and then I backed off of it before we actually made the picks. I think that a lot of people are coming for the Giants. I think there's probably some Eagles fans there. I know there's some Cowboys fans like, they got exposed. I haven't
seen a ton of that actually.
I don't think this is that bad of a loss. I mean, you lost to a good team, a good quarterback. It was kind of close. I think it was closer than things look on the surface. You're on your bye. You're 6-2. Like you're well above water. Like if you're a Giants fan or associated with the team, you have every reason to be completely proud of your team right now.
Yeah, they lost in a way too. In part, that wasn't like something you have to worry about every single week with Richie James, fumbling twice like he did. That kind of is maybe some karma, although in a much less high leverage spot than what Kyle Williams doing that in the 49ers Giants championship game.
I wanted to bring it up to stats, but it felt rude. So
that was just like the biggest BS. That whole run. Don't get me started on that run. Look, Giants fans. I'm the one who said that we should have talked about the Giants second, not the Cowboys. I'm on your side. On
if Miles Austin doesn't lose that ball in the lights, the whole run doesn't happen. But whatever. Go on.
There's so many things in that run, and obviously, like to some extent, those things happen during runs. I'm not saying every run doesn't, but like they happened at like every possible moment in every improbable way. It was like it was just the most. It bothered me from a standpoint of like usually the team that wins the Super Bowl is like, oh, this is the model team. It's like what was there to learn from those Giants? Like what was the formula? They weren't doing some formula. It's like if the example I always use. Did you ever play Banjo Kazooie?
Not enough to understand whatever reference you're gonna make.
Okay, so anyway, so there was this part in that game, I believe in Clanker's Cavern, where there's this giant mechanical fish where you would have to run through this alley of guillotines, moving back really fast back and forth. And in theory, if you ran through there at the precise right time, you would miss all those swings, right? But just because you did that and made it through alive, like that, which would be very improbable, doesn't mean it was a good call to do that. That was a very bad call. You just happened to get lucky. So that's like a result of a process
the people.
thing.
ever seen somebody play Nintendo, but like they like turn their hands upside down? You know what I'm talking about? Like they like do it very strangely, and it's like that shouldn't work. You know what I mean? Like it's frustrating that it
No, you're talking
works.
about the controller?
Yeah, like they'll like position their hand like
Huh.
effectively like upside down or sideways. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No.
you know, you see a controller and it's like, you know, your mind tells you there's like a standard way to hold it. But like I have my PS5 controller right here. So it'd be like if somebody like if I played it like this, you know what I mean? Like somebody's like and then they're like just like dominating you. Like,
Oh, right.
you know,
Got you
like
now. Yeah.
they're winning. And so like objectively that's fair, but like it's
Right.
a stupid way to win. So whatever.
Yeah.
That's you know, whatever. But Giants, hold your head high. Like seriously, like I mean, and I mentioned playoff odds. Like they're gonna be like this is a playoff team. I don't think there's any doubt
Sure.
about it at this point.
Well, their schedule's so easy still, too. Like they still have a lot of winnable games ahead of them. Let's take stock of the East as a whole right now, because we just mentioned the Giants. They're currently the 6th seed in the NFC playoff picture. So yeah, they're a wild card team. To your point, the 49ers are right below them at 4-4. And then it's the Commanders at the 8th spot, just missing out. But to your point on the Football Monday episode this week for the SB Nation NFL show, not insane that all 4 of these teams could make the playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen. Because well, maybe it will. No, because I think
well, you're kind of
looking at
blowing
it here.
through. You're kind of blowing through Washington's game against
Well,
Indianapolis.
I'm not getting into Washington. I'm just saying
but
that
like
the Giants are in a good spot to get a wild card.
It involves them. The Giants, I think, are certainly going to be a wild card. Like there's no doubt in my mind. Washington, there's a little bit of doubt. But
Yes,
hang on,
agree.
I'm pulling. I mean, like Washington needs some help. Needs things to maybe not break the right way, but they kind of just need things to kind of they need the NFC to stay trash the way it's been. I don't think that that's as necessary for the Giants. Obviously, not for the Cowboys or the Eagles.
Right.
It was taking me forever
the
to pull
Giants
this
have
up.
a 2-game advantage on every other team.
Right.
The next closest team against the
Now,
49ers, who are 4-4.
And I think that the Giants really need the Niners to stay sucking for obvious reasons, but they have now lost a tiebreaker against the Seahawks, which is important, obviously, because they lost this specific game. But going off 538's quarterback adjusted ELO forecast as far as playoff likelihoods are concerned, the Eagles have the highest playoff probability in the NFL with an over 99% chance of making the playoffs. So
no team that has ever started 7-0 has missed the playoffs.
You can't have 100%, obviously, at this point. So, like, if anyone's like, "How is it not 100?" That's just whatever. The Bills flat at 99. The Cowboys and Chiefs tied at 97%. The Minnesota Vikings now with T.J. Hawkinson. That does impact the end. That was kind of the only trade that impacts the NFC East. I felt like of all the big ones, because they play the Cowboys in a couple of weeks. And by then, you would imagine Hawkinson be a little bit more like assimilated into the offense. But anyway, 96% chance. Titans 93, Ravens 90, your Dolphins 75. The Giants currently ahead of both the Niners and Seahawks. Giants at 74, Niners 73. The NFC West leading Seahawks only at 62% chance.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, I don't know how they don't win 10 games easily. Like it's an easy 10-win season for them. And I think this is the earliest I've been ready to call Coach of the Year, like in some time. It's Brian Daboll. Like, and some of it is like the market and it's the Giants and they've sucked so much, but like I'm giving it to him right now. Like I'm totally
not the guy you just lost to, Pete Carroll.
No, I mean, like, give Pete something. Like
I mean, which team has overperformed expectations more than the Seahawks? They have the Giants, really? Everyone thought the Giants were going to, like, not be this good, but they thought they were going to, like, be more respectable and be decent. And literally no one thought the Seahawks were going to be anything.
I don't know, man. Like, again, like, I mean, you have a valid point, but if I'm betting on one winning it, it's probably Daboll, because if the NFC East stays amazing, like it's literally on pace to finish as like the best division of all time. You know what I mean? Like, so doing that in this division, in that market, against these markets, you know what I mean? Like it's a winning case.
Well, if it comes down to the, both of them as the finalists, then, one is the tiebreaker now.
Okay, let's get to the Commanders. I don't think we have to spend much time on the game. Because it's kind of a boring game, although it was a comeback for the Commanders, but some of that because of the super fraud Colts. Nothing I have ever said has aged better than my exposure of the Indianapolis Colts. We agree on this?
Yeah, which is why they're going to beat the Cowboys.
Dude, seriously, like, how many more people are they throwing under this bus? You know what I mean? Like today, the day we're recording was Marcus Brady and Frank Reich comes out. It was a tough decision. No, it wasn't. You're saving yourself. At least be straight up about it. Like, man, I can't believe that any of you Eagles fans, not Brandon, thought that dude was responsible for your Super Bowl. Although tough times for Doug Peterson right now. It's a different subject.
I mean, get him a real quarterback here. Let's go.
I never want to see Carson Wentz. I mean, actually, I want to see Carson Wentz play, but like, if you're a Commanders fan, you should never want to see him play ever again. Like, there's just,
Yeah.
I hate
Obviously,
like,
even wrote about that.
I know, but I hate like talking about it like this because it's so lazy. But like, there's like a scrappiness, like a a funness, whatever to Taylor Heineke. Yeah, like there's something to them. They're more tolerable when he's their quarterback. And I don't know how you can want anything else if you're a Commanders fan.
Yeah, I mean, they're still alive here. You have to give Ron Rivera a lot of credit. Like I know you want to do. No, I don't really think these past 2 weeks say a ton about them like seriously turning things around. Although again, getting Chase Young back at some point is a nice boost to have there, and he can have a big impact. We talked about him prior to the season, maybe kind of being like a TJ Watt, kind of like having that like potential, not saying it's guaranteed to happen, especially coming off the injury, but I think that's the ceiling for the kind of impact that he could have. So yeah, it's possible they could get that last wild card spot probably because it's going to be tough for them. They've already lost to the Cowboys. They have 2 games still against the Giants. We'll see, but the Giants currently, have the leg up on them with a better record. So it's possible still they make the postseason, but it's probably for that final wild card spot, which I guess they'll take. But like,
how would
what
you
does that
not
really
take
do?
it?
Well, it does. Or you take it, but I'm saying, what does that really do for them, big picture still? Because then, what does next year look like? You're just going to run it back again, like.
I mean, so like it's a different thing than the Giants, right? Like if you're the Giants, like you get to the playoffs, like it's a culture boosting sort of thing. Like you're already pretty deep into this culture. And you mentioned Ron Rivera. The Commanders announced on Tuesday that his mother passed away. So we certainly are sending our thoughts and prayers to Ron Rivera and his family. We've always said Ron Rivera, great human being. Obviously a tough situation for him. So yeah, I don't know, like, because you kind of like, how do you move on from him, right? And it's a difficult subject to talk about today. But like it keeps you sort of
good. He wasn't even good in the Colts game.
Well, like it keeps you kind of like stuck in this regime, like how do you move on from Taylor Heineke? Do you keep him around?
Heineke, by the way, not Rivera.
I mean, whatever. But I don't know if you have tabs open again. Your screen is really fighting you. Bear is really fighting the mail truck. But they're the 8th seed right now to get to this question. Bear, I know the Bears aren't making the playoffs. They're
no,
what?
Definitely not.
They're not last though in the NFC. Okay,
no,
the point is made. Anyway. Back to playoff likelihoods and probabilities. The Commanders currently sit with an 18% chance of making the playoffs. So it's, and a lot of it is, and you mentioned this, is their schedule. So they have the Vikings up next.
By strength of schedule, it's the toughest remaining strength of schedule.
And it's a lot of that is obviously the division.
Sure.
But
still the Vikings too and the 49ers.
So they get
Falcons.
the Vikings this week. I'm a believer. Man, what a time to be a Vikings fan like me. I mean, seriously.
Okay.
Just
ignoring the team that blasted them in week 2, but okay.
I said at the time that was impressive. again, you're doing the AJ Brown thing that people do.
You're taking like a victory lap with the Vikings on Monday Football
They are
Monday.
really good. I said they would be really good, and that has aged very well. Nobody believed in the Vikings.
No one is scared of the Vikings.
Are you like? What are you more scared of the Cowboys or Vikings?
I think the Cowboys pose a bigger threat. Yes, not the Vikings. RJ's muting his microphone because he's
all right.
With Bear.
Enough. Anyway,
why don't we get into the predictions for this week since we're up against the clock here?
Well, I did want to just quickly say, if the Commanders somehow win this week against the Vikings, which I don't think either of us think is going to happen, and we can talk about that in the predictions. But if they do,
in Washington,
right.
Landover, Maryland.
That's not Kirk's first game back, right? It can't be at this point. I
don't think so.
Yeah,
that can't be. He's been.
I don't know that for certain, but it can't be. Like it just can't be.
I'm pretty sure it's not.
But whatever. Say they won. Say that the Commanders do win. That would be and I mean they're not winning in Philadelphia, but it would make for a fun week because they would be riding a 4-game winning streak heading into the Monday Night Football game in Philadelphia. That'd be a fun story. And that would, man, the NFC East stuff would be exhausting. You know what I mean? Like that would be an exhausting week for like NFC Beast puns. But so it is what it is. Okay. Prediction time. So the Dallas Cowboys and New York Giants are both on bye this week. Only 2 NFC East games. We've got the Eagles and Texans to kick things off on Thursday night. As mentioned, our friends at DraftKings have Philadelphia favored by 14 points. Do they win? Do they cover?
I mean, the Texans, just look at their schedule this year. Like, what have they done? Okay, so they beat the Jags in a game that was 13-6, and Jags haven't looked so hot recently, been losing a lot. And then they tied against the Colts in week 1. Like, okay,
they should have beaten them. That
Sure.
still bothers me, but they should have beaten them. But you're right.
But like,
but what do they even like? Forget the wins. What do they do? That like, what do they have? You're like we can sit here about Washington and well, they're 500, but like that sounds disrespectful. But like, you know, we can sit here and be like, well, you know, like Terry McLaurin's really good. Chase, like, what does Houston have? Like, oh man, rookie Damian Pierce is going to run all over the Eagles. No, Brandon
forgot
Cooks,
to touch on the William Jackson trade, by the way, for Washington.
Oh yeah, well they were going to cut him, but they managed to get something. So back in the AFC North, we loved that signing when it happened, by the way. So that didn't age well for us, but yeah, I mean, I don't see how I mean, maybe the Texans cover, like maybe it's like a late backdoor cover, you know, type situation, just because 14 is so much. I'm still going to take Philly. Like I'm fine betting on that and being wrong.
I mean, yeah, the Eagles can cover. They have the ability to cover. And I guess the big question here, not only for this game, but coming up for the Eagles, is how do they handle the loss of Jordan Davis, who's going to be out probably for 4 to 6 weeks, reportedly. We don't know the exact time frame, hasn't gone on injured reserve as of this podcast recording. But he's certainly been a factor in the Eagles' run defense in those 5-man fronts. And now he's not going to be there. So that's kind of a question mark. Maybe Damian Pierce has a big game in theory, but I feel like the Eagles can figure it out. And Davis Mills is clearly not very good. So I think he's going to turn over the ball. And I think the Eagles are going to capitalize. We've seen the offense rolling. I think this is I think there's a guard against the trap game potential here because Jalen Hurts is from Houston. And I think, as you like to point out, I think there's going to be like a lot of, you know, like he's going to want out and put a show because he's going to have a lot of people who are coming to that game that he's probably family and everything. So I don't think they're going to like take this one for granted. And also I think it's kind of like the messaging from Sirianni, I think, has been on point in recent weeks. And I think this is about like, hey, you know, let's tap in, let's get this one. And then we get kind of like another bye here, a mini bye after this one before that Washington game on Monday Night Football. So I like the Eagles to win here. Texans are banged up too. Like they're missing Nico Collins, potentially their second leading receiver behind Cooks, who there's some weirdness going on with Cooks. He missed practice today for personal reasons, and he's like tweeting weird things. So we'll see if he even plays or what the deal is there, if he's focused. And they're also missing former Cowboy Malik Collins on the defensive line. So I just think they're injured. They're not good. It's Lovie Smith. The Eagles are on a roll. Jalen Hurts is on a roll. Nick Sirianni's on a roll. I don't think Lovie Smith is pulling out the upset here. I'll take the Eagles, and I'll give the points.
I would be more worried about the trap game potential if they had like sputtered or struggled against the Steelers, like coming out of the bye. You know what I mean? Like whatever, this and that. But like they won very handily, and like you know, and like it was the AJ Brown game. Like we said that a few weeks ago. Like maybe this is I don't know what it is. Like the Dallas Goedert game, the Miles Sanders game, whatever. Like there will be a Kenneth Gainwell game, whatever.
Texans are the worst team in the league, right? Like you would say they're the worst team in the NFL. Like if you do your power rankings, are they dead last?
They were 32nd. Yeah. I don't want them to be
DVOA.
Like I've grown so much. Like there used to be this kind of like little brother rivalry between the Cowboys and Texans, like in an annoying way, like the early 2010s when they had the Matt Schaub kind of success. But now it's just like really sad and pathetic. Like, you know, like now I kind of like not root for them, but like, no, it's like, you know, if you can do it. Yeah, I think everything you said is accurate. I have two things to say. One, I just saw a tweet right now that the Phillies could wear their powder blues on Thursday night.
Wow.
So I don't know.
I was just saying this.
I don't know how accurate that is.
Teams should be wearing their alternates in you know, especially
I don't know what allows for that. Like I don't know what rules like open the doors for that. But my question along the lines of predictions here is which members of the Eagles wear Phillies gear walking into the stadium? Because somebody will. Well, like so Nick Sirianni is an obvious one.
He did that last week, I believe. Yeah.
Well, he's got to do it. Like the game, you know what I'm saying? Like he's got to do it. It's in Houston. Like, does Jalen Hurts do it? Because he's had this, like, are you an Astros Phillies fan? Like, so that's really my question.
I think he might have to do it.
I think he does it. And like, this isn't like a shot at the Phillies. I think he does it if the series is tied or if they have the lead. But if the Phillies are down 3-1, I think it's a little bit too much of like, okay. You know what I mean? So that's my official prediction. The other game in the NFC East, like we said, Cowboys and Giants both on bye. The Commanders, we talked about it, hosting the Minnesota Vikings. They are laying 3.5 points. The Vikings are. So Commanders get 3.5 at home. So that's tough scene. But I don't think it's enough. I mean, it's the Vikings. You can make fun. They're very good, like in this world. And the Commanders they don't have the horses to turn on with that offense.
Perhaps it's a hater take, but I think the last two Commanders games say more about their opponents than they really do about the Commanders.
Ooh, like the Packers, 10 points BLG.
Well, the Packers are. I really want to do a version of what's it called? The show with Tony, what's his name, Reali on ESPN. What am I thinking of? with the point system. Why can't I think of that? What's that? You know the show I'm talking about.
You're talking about Around the Horn?
Yeah. Why can't I think of
where
that?
we like give each other points. Yeah.
We should do like an NFC East mixtape version of that with all
We do that on our
people.
roundtables at Blogging the Boys, so we can do that here. Totally.
We could do that with like where we have a mixtape like that, where we have representatives from each team site on, and then maybe Rachel or someone can
Rachel's biased. We can't do it with Rachel.
True.
She's too biased.
Maybe stats then. Well, there we go. That's is almost like like the perfect person to get for that. So there we go. I like that. I think that could be a lot of fun. Obviously he's biased towards me, but that's fine.
So we're both taking Washington.
I mean, so to wrap up that point, I think.
Minnesota.
The win. I know what you meant. The win over the Packers was about the Packers like being terrible, clearly, and falling apart. Mm-hmm. And the win over the Colts, which again wasn't even like that impressive of a win from a standpoint, like they did this comeback. That's nice and all, but like the Colts also blew it. And I think Washington's a little bit better, certainly, than they were with Carson Wentz for vibes and other reasons, and mobility, taking care of the ball, maybe a little bit better, not fumbling as much, but. I think the Vikings win this game and cover, dropping the football team to 4-5.
Agreed. I echo everything you said. The only thing I would add as far as things to watch within the NFC East, next week is massive for the Cowboys. Next week, the Cowboys, in case you don't know, go to Lambeau Field. It's Mike McCarthy returning. So Packers are in Detroit on Sunday. Difficult game for them, right? Obviously.
I mean, any game right now is a difficult game for them. Yeah.
So, I'm very interested to see what kind of energy they're bringing into that week. You know what I mean? Like, do they get a big win here? Do they struggle again? Like, whatever, blah, blah. So very anxious to see what happens here with the Green Bay Packers. As we close, as an apology, because it was my fault that we had to cut this short. Brandon, I will let you pick the subject matter. I've gotten a lot of requests from the mixologists to do a Russell Wilson impersonation. It's been a while, and it has been a tough scene for Russ since we last did it. So what would you like me to talk about as Russell Wilson?
Maybe why the Danger Witch was taken off the menu at Subway.
Brandon, there are a lot of ingredients in life, and some people, I like to talk about how life is really like the line at Subway. You get in and you pick your bread, and it's like, do you want wheat or white or sometimes I'm in an Italian mood. They got the Italian BMT. It's great. And you go through, and some ingredients are for you, and sometimes we all have disadvantages or hurdles that we have to overcome. Maybe you're allergic to tomatoes. Maybe you have an allergen. Maybe you have a dairy reaction or something like that. There are things and circumstances in life that you just can't plan. And sometimes life works for you, and you can get that sandwich toasted, and you can get the combo meal, the chips and the cookie and the drink. I like the lemonade, but sometimes things just aren't ready. And I think that's where we came down with the Danger Witch. I'm a big fan myself. I can't tell you the recipe. It's my personal chef who I pay $8 million a month to makes it for me. It's part of my nutrition plan. If you want one, I can give you the Costco version, because we have Danger Witch. It's coming out. You can get it. They retail $11.99. They're frozen. You take it out, you put it in the microwave, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, actually 2 minutes and 33 seconds. That's for me, because I'm number 3. Also 2 minutes and 33 seconds, how long our offense was good this season. But Danger Witch, baby. Go Hawks. Broncos country. That's right.
All right.
Did that
check
deliver?
out the SB Nation NFL show. Check out. Hey, if you like this show, why not leave a comment if you've already left a rating and review, especially leave a comment on the YouTube page, Blogging the Boys YouTube page, or the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube page, and then follow us on Twitter at Brandon Gowton, at RJ Ochoa, also on Instagram.
Yeah, blue checks or not. Go Stros. Oh, actually, very last thing before we leave, we didn't finalize this on the SB Nation NFL show. If the Phillies win the World Series, I will change my Twitter avatar. We're still defining how long or whatever. And if the Astros win the World Series, Brandon will do it. So that will happen. We just didn't finalize the details on the NFL show. Just wanted to make sure people knew that.
I think it should be until after the next football game of the team. You can change it once that football game ends.
Well, that would be this weekend, in all likelihood. Actually, after next Sunday. Because the Cowboys have a bye, you know what I mean. So that wouldn't be fair.
True.
And the Eagles are on Thursday night, so
But then I would allow you to wait maybe until.
We'll work out the details. But that's another reason you should listen to the SB Nation NFL show, because maybe you're like, what the hell? You guys had a bet going on? We made the bet over there. So head on over to there. Brandon, give us your top 3 Halloween candies as we leave.
Yeah, I heard you talk about this with stats. By the way, Phillies in 5. I'm gonna go
Stupid.
peanut butter cups. Reese's peanut butter
Good call.
cups.
Great call.
Specifically the pumpkin too for Halloween. Come on, you gotta get
Nah,
that
not my
pumpkin
thing, but
shape. Yeah,
still.
come on, it's fun. And then number 2, I'm gonna go with the peanut butter M&Ms. You already know these answers because I dropped them in Slack yesterday.
Mhm.
And then third, I'm gonna go Sour Patch Kids because I can't just go chocolate for everything. You have to have that. I like that sourness.
Had you heard of a Charleston Chew that Stats brought up?
I've heard of it, but like I don't know what it is. Like I know it exists, but I don't know what it is.
Can you believe he literally said his favorite candy was a Tootsie Roll? Who would say that?
Have you ever had the fruit Tootsie Rolls?
I don't want
It's
that.
a fruit version. They're not bad. They're not like a favorite, but they're not bad.
Make a random noise. A noise. It can't be a word.
Phillies in 5.
Never.